everybody, thank you for joining me today. Today I'll be sharing with you my December bullet journal setup. I decided to go with a gnome theme this month. I don't have any gnome stamps, so I'll be drawing all of my gnome elements this month, which is a great challenge, but it also means that everything takes a little bit longer to do. On the left-hand side of the page, you can see my dashboard that I lettered similar to last month. And this dashboard, of course, is a free printable available to my newsletter subscribers. So if you're interested in getting this for your personal use, please make sure to sign up for my email newsletter. I'll link my blog down below. This month, I wanted to incorporate more of this white on black or white on a color technique, and so I created a chalkboard like effect so that I could letter with my white jelly roll pen. I like to use the size 10. I find the nib is a lot more forgiving than, say, the 8 or the 5. The ink just flows better and the opacity is better. As you can see, I am a pencil first bullet journaler, so you'll always see pencil instead of just freehanding it. The other thing I wanted to say was, of course, this results in lots of erasing. So in the past, I found that the Tombow Mono drawing pens are able to maintain its intensity on the page if you erase over top of it. But I've learned using the newer bullet journals with the higher quality paper that it's also dependent on the paper. So the ink just slides on the paper so much more, which is frustrating, especially as I am a pencil first person. So I might have to make some changes going forward to accommodate the issue of erasing over the pen. So here you can see I'm lettering in my white jelly roll. It's the size 10, and I'm just going back in and basically pushing the ink around, trying to get the opacity that I want. And just like last month, you'll see that I like putting borders around my pages just as I feel like it finishes it off. I'm just using a generic black super tip Crayola. Same with coloring in my elf. I was using Crayola super tips to color those in. So here's where you can see I'm doing a bit of faux calligraphy, just going in and thickening up my downstrokes, just to give it the effect that it was done with calligraphy. For the rest of the layout, I use a brush pen, a hard brush pen, to do all of it. So that's an example of my faux calligraphy. So this is my doodle page, just like in November when I did my own personal doodle challenge. I plan on doing the same this month. I feel that I already saw an improvement from the first day of doodling to now. I'm filming this obviously before the end of the month, but I've already seen a difference, so much so that I was confident enough to draw some gnomes by hand. For December, I will be having free printables available on my blog of the Doodle Challenge. So if you want to take part, but you don't have time, or you don't have the capacity to painstakingly draw out all the lines, I do have it available for free download, including the prompts as well. Otherwise, if you're interested in drawing it yourself, my boxes are 6x6 blocks, or boxes or squares, whatever you want to call them, so that you can recreate that if you want. Again, I'm only doing 30 instead of 31, just because of space. So this month I actually incorporated the Tombow Furunosuke brush pen a lot. I don't know why I don't use this pen more often, because I loved using it this month. It was so great. I love that you can go from doing simple block letters to weighted block letters just by gently changing the pressure that you're using. I also like the opacity of the pen when I was coloring in my letters. I found it was just so black. Without I didn't even have to edit as much as I normally do just to get that black intensity. So I will definitely be using that guy more. Here I'm doing some calligraphy with just a Crayola super tip. As you can see, it's perfect for creating the up and down strokes. I like to outline it as well, just so that it will pop from the page a bit more. So Crayola super tips, I should say, are definitely one of my favorite calligraphy tools. They're inexpensive and they have a wide variety of color. So if you're doing just generic modern calligraphy without any of the blending or any of that, I find the super tips are just perfect. So here I am doing the modern calligraphy, but this time with the Fudonosuke. So whereas with the jelly roll I did faux calligraphy, here's where I just start to do regular calligraphy instead of the faux calligraphy. So again, I put my border around it, and just to allow for a more finished look. On this page, my monthly view, I decided to do Santa hats or gnome hats as my weekly headers, weekday headers. I also preemptively lettered the December in. So what I did was I decided to play with a foil quill pen. So what that is, it's a pen that heats up and then you're able to use heat activated foil and either write or draw with it. It was my first time doing it in my bullet journal. I just decided to go all out and just without practice or anything, I just put it down and it came out not too bad. A couple of things I learned: you want to make sure the pen is hot enough before you start lettering or drawing, and also need to be better about measuring out the size as well. It ended up being a little bit lower than I'd wanted it to. So because the pen, the foil quill pen wasn't hot enough, I ended up running into issues where it looked a little blotchy. So I thought I could fix that with a Uniball gold pen. Turns out the Uniball was just a little bit too yellow gold than the foil. So I just kind of let it be. Lesson learned, move on. Again, I'm using my Crayola super tips to color in. I use my dashboard as my color palette inspiration, so I was able to use quite a few colors this month, which was great. So again, I'm bringing in the Fudonosuke brush pen to letter in the weekdays. It's a harder nib versus the softer nibs of the bigger brush pens. So it can be a lot more forgiving, especially when you're learning. It's easier to learn with them, but you definitely want to go slow. I mean, I've sped up the video for you, but I'm going pretty slow so that I can maintain even upstrokes and downstrokes. I find if you rush with one of these Fudonosuke pens, you're going to run into issues. It's going to look very wobbly, so just keep that in mind. I'm putting my border around again. So what happened here was the layout wasn't quite as even as I wanted it to look. So when I drew my thinner border, I just drew it over top of the hats and over top of the December, which I found created a pretty great balance. You can also use washi when you run into balance issues. I just hadn't swatched the washi that I wanted. So here you're in for a treat. I am doodling a gnome without having prepared for it. I decided to use up that space by putting in a gnome so that it matches with the rest of my December layout. I wanted to do a gnome lying on its side with its one leg propped up. I think I did pretty good, all things considered, but this was definitely out of my comfort zone. I like to attribute the Doodle challenge for bringing my confidence back in terms of just doodling live, if you will, on camera. And by live, I mean without practice, without being prepared. So I was pretty proud of myself for that and decided to keep it in there. I also feel like I'm a little late posting this, which is why I just kind of put pencil down on paper because I didn't want to have to stall filming this for you so that it could be ready in time if you're looking for inspiration for your bullet journal for December. So I was pretty happy with how it turned out, and again I'm using my secondary bullet journal, it's an older bullet journal, as a prop for my hand to keep it even so that I'm able to draw even lines and my hand doesn't slip. I don't know why my camera was jumping back and forth like that. I do apologize, but at least now you can get a close-up view of how I'm coloring in my gnome. If I had better planned it out, I probably would have had his beard hanging over the top of the box, but since I'd already drawn the line, I just decided to leave it as is. So for my weekly layout, I'm doing a Dutch door. I decided to include the image of me cutting the page. I know for a lot of people the thought of cutting your bullet journal can be very stressful, and I remember the first time I attempted a Dutch door. It was also very nerve-wracking to cut up my bullet journal, but it's just a journal. You just turn the page if it doesn't work out. So this lettering of December is part of my whole frivolous comment. I definitely did some extra lettering just for fun, just to see, and I did like how it turned out. I used a Tombow Mono drawing pen in size 3 and size 1 for the details, 3 for the outer letters. Again, this is sped up, so it took a bit more time than you're seeing right now, but I didn't want to have you sit here for an hour and 30 minutes. So I just super sped it for you. For my weekly layout, I also decided I enjoyed having the calendar aspect. I did this one wrong. I like to go for my monthly views, I like to have the Sunday through Saturday, but for my weekly views I like to have the Monday to Sunday. But I already started lettering this, so it is what it is. I'll correct it on my next weekly layouts. But since December is such a busy month, I decided to do the dashboard layout, which allows for more room to take note of everything that needs to be done. So I'll probably use the Dutch door layout for the first 3 weeks of December, and then the last 2 weeks I'll just go back to something more generic, probably like I used last month, just to allow for keeping track of everything that has to happen. So instead of drawing the straight lines, I decided to do dotted lines for this month, or this week, and I really loved it. I loved the effect. Because of all the fine detail work I was doing for this setup, you'll see a lot of my hair and my nose and the side of my face. I apologize for that. But I just needed to get in closer to make sure I was getting the detailed effect that I wanted. So here I have my next little gnome. Last month I didn't include something like the remember box. So for the remember, it's kind of going to make it like a priority, like whatever my number one priority for that month was going to, for that week was going to be. Like I said, it's going to be a busy one, so I just wanted to make sure I was keeping track of everything that needs to get done. So for my days, I was lettering with the Funosuke again. For the actual dates, I drew ornaments, and I topped the ornaments off with a little bit of gold sparkle just to tie it into my other pages. And I'll be writing on the ornaments in the white jelly roll pen so that it pops out a bit more and it stands out a bit more. So when adding my borders onto my weekly layout, I ran into issues where my pen started to fray, which is what I'm showing you. And that's what tends to happen when you use poorer quality paper. So because I use my Crayola, my black Crayola Super Tip to do borders on almost every and any kind of paper, and that's why it's fraying so badly. It's not necessarily because of the scribbles that matches paper, it's just the way it is. But what's so great is you can just pick off the little part that's frayed and carry on. So now I'm working on the back layer of the Dutch door, because again I made my next week bigger compared to last month, just because December just gets busier and busier and busier. I'm sure it's the same for most people out there. And like I said, I like the idea of the white jelly roll on the ornament, and I was really happy with how that came out. And I'll definitely be using my Funosuke hard tip brush pen more often now. There's a while there that I didn't use it, but after creating this layout, it was so fantastic to be able to do so much with just one pen. So you'll see when I start to letter the little quote I have in the bottom right hand corner, I do it all with one pen versus how many times I switched out pens for everything else. I lost count. If you're curious about what I used, you can check out my blog. I'll link it down below, and you can see what I used as well as some tips and tricks that I talk about throughout the video. So if you don't want to keep watching it and fast forwarding and rewinding every 2 seconds, I'll have that information on my blog as well. So here's where I start lettering my little quote, and as you can see, I'm doing now calligraphy with the pen. I really like that it's just the slightest pressure change to give you the effect that you want. I also go in and use this pen for the word gnome, And as you can see, I have some weight changes in my lettering, and it was so easy to do it all with just the one brush pen. So it was fantastic. So I'll definitely be using that more. It's definitely soaring on the charts of my favorite pen. So thank you for watching today. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. You can either reach out down below in the comments or on my blog, whatever's easiest for you. I love talking about all things lettering and bullet journaling, so please reach out and let me know. Thank you so much for watching.